The last thing he remembers was being captured in a narrow space with his body covered in blood, with a wooden stake piercing his heart with every breath. He chased the light at the end of that space by remembering how it all started, on that hot July day at the school backyard, when he stood in front of a girl for her confession. She rejected him by expressing that she never loved him from the beginning. He laughed to hide his turmoil and left immediately. Just a little later in class, he shattered the desk in anger and questioned the purpose of his muscles. Watching how he acted, his friend expressed, "Your efforts were doomed from the start, and you would be better off if you stayed put." In confusion, Ashita looked at him with tear-streaming eyes. Later, his friend left him stunned by pointing out, "Before starting a relationship, you tune your body to other people's desires, which turns them off." Instantly, Ashita patted his friend's shoulder with the wounds he gave him and opened the classroom door to leave, saying, "I'm going to get some fresh air." He left, leaving him alone in the class with a looming silence surrounding him. Realizing his mistake and impact of his words, his friend rushed to apologize from him. He searched him everywhere and then hurried over to school staircase. What he saw next surprised him. Ashita was lying collapsed on the staircase. His friend instantly moved to help him out. During his aid he felt something was off with him. The next moment his friend shouted his name to keep him awake. Ashita can hear his friend shout, but cannot answer him back. His vision became blurred with blood coming out from his head, with a feeling that his soul leaving the world behind. The next moment he opened his eyes and saw a girl in front of him. More likely his face was pressing against her chest like a pillow. After becoming conscious, Ashita leapt back in fear, but the girl grabbed his arm. To calm him down and to make him listen about what she wanted to say next, she moved close and whispered in his ear that he is dead. Hearing her, Ashita felt a statue without a pulse. Looking his pale face, the girl expressed that his soul is crossing the world, and advised him why not to look around his surroundings. He took her advice, looked around and saw numerous boats with souls flowing around him. Watching how reality turned out, tears began to stream from his eyes. To remove his doubt he asked from the girl, "Am I really dead?" But she didn't understand what he meant. In the muddling situation he leapt and hugged her. Looking at his tearful face, the girl let him stay like this, until they get to the shore. After reaching at the shore, the girl felt that he is feeling better now and left to assist Lord Enma, hoping to see him later. After she went away, Ashita face covered with sweat and thinking that what is going to happen next with him. After a short while thinking about the girl, he got summoned into the Lord Enma castle. The Lord looked at him with his giant eyes and decided that he is going to heaven. But Ashita was terrified by his huge size. The Lord asked about Gasha, and ordered her to take the boy away. A familiar voice answered, "As you wish, my lord." Ashita turned and saw a girl from before. She moved close to Ashita to take his shackles off, and touch his hand by telling him to come with her. Finding her so close, Ashita's heart skipped a beat by turning him red. After they left, Ashita asked Gasha about the heaven location. She replied it's a paradise, which surprised him. Like an accountant, she read his previous life deeds and teased him, which surprised Ashita as she learned everything about him. Done with her reading, she complimented him that he is a good kid. Showered by her praise, Ashita brushed off his hair in embarrassment. Suddenly she turned towards Ashita, and suggested him a short trip to hell, because she personally wanted to discuss something with him. Ashita didn't find any reason to refuse and agreed. What he witnessed next in scorching flames blew him away. By seeing how humans were being hunted and tortured by demons in every unimaginable way, a shiver ran down his spine after witnessing the treatment in hell. Gasha explained this is the third layer of hell, where main sin is sex and lust. Whenever someone do sexual misconduct, they fell here. Hearing her, Ashita trembled and asked, "Does my working out count as lust too?" She replied, "No, you are going to heaven." Gasha turned around and quoted Buddha teaching that those who go extreme in love end up here. Then she looked and asked Ashita, "Are you scared?" Like a drama queen, he grabbed his chest and expressed that it's really scary, which made Gasha burst in laughter. Ending her laughter, she expressed that you are so easy to read, and tell him to go deeper in hell for more interesting places to explore. Her words blew up his brain, causing him to turn red. Finding her cute, Ashita's gaze became fixed on Gasha. He asked, "What kind of work do you usually do?" She replied, "I recruit and search for pure children's souls just like him." She turned around to look at Ashita, but he was not there. His sudden disappearance surprised her. After a moment, what she witnessed next completely shocked her. Ashita was freaking out after got captured by demons, and now he was being crushed between boulders as a punishment. In fear, he told them that they got the wrong guy, as he didn't know about any hell terms. But demons have decided to silence him instantly. In fear, he told them to stop. Gansha rushed over to save him, ordering the demons to stop. That kid is bound for heavens, but demons have already done it. After a moment hearing her, demons became surprised. Finally she reached close to the boulder to check on Ishita's condition. But it was too late. Blood covered his face with the wooden stake, pierced his heart. He sputtered Gansha's name one last time, as he got crushed inside the boulder. Watching him die due to her mistake, Gansha went in deep shock. After demons were done killing him, they looked at Gansha in surprise, and asked would a written apology would suffice for them to get off the hook. For a moment they stopped arguing with each other and looked at her. She lay down close to the boulder and cried to apologize for Ishita, saying that what he experienced in hell must have scared him. Suddenly a faint crackling voice came from inside the boulder which caught her attention. With the slightest hope indicating her that Ishita could be alive, she called his name and asked, "Are you okay?" He replied, "I'm fine and sorry for making you cry." She looked up at the boulder and asked Ishita, "If you come out from the boulder on your own, then she promised to reward him by doing something naughty with him, though they have to hold up for now until he became older, or it will become a sin." Suddenly the crackling voice began to come out from the boulder again. Ishita put his all remaining strength in use, making the demons and Gansha surprised as they watched from outside the boulder. The demons screamed in surprise with their jaw dropped by witnessing a miracle in front of them. As the crack grew wider, Ishita began to come out little by little from the boulder. A little later he successfully moved both sides of the boulder and came out, and said, "I'm happy for the offer, but don't sell yourself short." He grabbed the wooden stake and looked at the surprised Gansha, replying her, "As you can see, I'm fine," and drew the wooden stake out from his heart. Looking at the surprised Gansha, he laughed and said, "Seemed like we both like each other, but I can't make any promises." Suddenly, he collapsed after losing too much blood. Watching him collapse, Gansha immediately hugged him and expressed that she had never saw an amazing kid like him in the last 500 years and invited the unconscious Ishita to come to her school. In his unconscious state, Ishita agreed and went to sleep. She ordered the demons to take him to the school. Thinking about her offer in his sleep, he daydreamed about his school and thought, if Gansha is headmaster, it must be like a heaven, without knowing that he had set up a red flag for himself. Inside the class, the teacher made an announcement, but the demons were too busy fighting with each other. She made the announcement again, saying a new named Ishita is joining them today. But the demons couldn't hear her because of their fighting. The teacher sighed and said, "Don't mind them, they always fight after their eyes meet." A shiver ran down his spine after watching the blood fight in front of him. He thought, what about heaven, is it on hold? Ending his introduction, the teacher instructed Ishita to open his book and read its very first line. Ishita tried to focus on reading despite the demon's ongoing fight behind him. A little later he asked something from the teacher. She asked, "What is it?" Ishita said, "This book is so dirty he can't read it. Would he get executed for not reading it?" She replied, "You won't, and our school origin is written in it." Before Ishita became engrossed in her story, the demons noticed him during their fight and asked, "Oi, what is a human doing here?" Like hounds, they drew closer to bark and bite him. Ishita tried to defend himself by calming them down, as he had no clue what was going on here, but the teacher sighed and said that anyone can become a torturing devil if they have talent for it, and on top of that the headmaster likes you very much, Ishita, which make the demon's jaw drop in surprise after hearing her. Watching their reaction, Ishita knew he was in deep trouble. He dashed out from the classroom, saying, "I'm leaving early today." The demons noticed his escape and swore to tear him apart. During his escape, he challenged them, "If that's the case, then catch me if you can," which made demons more angrier. They said, "Oi," he talked back, "catch and kill him." He ran into an open area where a demon was conducting a class. During the class, the teacher looked at the students' hyped faces and asked, "You guys, what place is it?" The students cheerfully shouted, "It's the poop pond." Without knowing that Ishita was trembling behind a tree in fear, he wanted to find Gansha as soon as possible. On the other side, the teacher warned students about this place, as it is home to a special kind of monster. But Ishita was lost in his thoughts and unaware of the danger getting closer to him. Suddenly, he felt pain in his arm. He gazed at his arm and saw a bug eating it. As the bug chewed a little more, Ishita's blood streamed out from his arm, which terrified him. Somehow, he took the bug out from his arm and threw it away. It landed close to the demon students as they discussed the needle-mouth bug. Ishita placed his hand on his mouth to stop himself from screaming and to control his fear. In pain, Ishita looked at his arm and saw that it was healing slowly. After it healed completely, Ishita looked at his arm. On the other side, the biology teacher decided that they are going to gather these bugs to breed them and began to gather them in one place. A little later, watching how wild things are becoming, Ishida began his escape by crawling between the bushes. For a moment, he stopped and looked at his healed arm. Though it was healed, the pain was still there. He continued his escape to get out quickly, but Gasha memories flooded his mind, making him unable to leave. Ishida crumbled on the ground and began to pull his hair out as he had to choose whether to stay in hell with Gasha or move to heaven. Just thinking about it, with every passing second, he became more and more distressed. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared in front of him, almost giving him a heart attack as he screamed with teary eyes. As the shadowy figure emerged, it was none other than Gasha, who had been searching for him. After finding him, she sighed and said, "Found you." But Ishida was stunned in fear. Noticing his terrible condition, she became surprised and immediately hugged him to apologize for what he faced in hell. She grabbed his hand and said, "Let's go somewhere safe. You'll be safe in my care." As he held her hand and walked with her, his fear began to disappear, replaced by a playful sigh deep in his heart. He thought, "Man, I love her, even though she saw me crying." A little later, his hand got covered in sweat, and things became silent all of a sudden. She looked to check if everything was okay with him. Noticing her gaze, Ishida thought to talk to her about anything. He began to sing the praises of her school, saying, "This place is really great, and there are so many things that I have never seen in the past." Before he could say anything more, Gasha replied, "Is the school so scary that you can't stop shaking?" Ishida trembled and replied, "It was super scary. I thought I was going to die there." Hearing him, she expressed, "Just as I thought." Some time later, she let go of his hand and said, "We are here. Follow this path, and you will enter paradise. I'm sure you'll forget about this place and live happily there." Watching her, Ishida asked, "Then why did you ask me to come to hell?" Gasha lowered her gaze and expressed that she thought he would rise above all demons and make them surrender to him. Ishida asked, "How can I do this?" But Gasha was worried if he didn't leave soon, he would experience something scary in hell again. Suddenly, a dragon appeared and attacked Ishida. To chop off his head, he freaked out by looking at it in fear, but Gasha stepped forward, blocked its attack by slamming on its face, and sent it back into the sky. At this point, Ishida lights went out due to fear. Riding on the dragon's head, the demon looked at him in intense anger and asked, "Why are you with the headmaster?" Other demons supported him and said, "Rip that kid's head apart. Go for it." But Ishida was left stunned by the previous attack. He looked at Gasha and asked, "What's that thing?" She replied, "It's the dragon that I raised in the school, and I want you to defeat it by relying on your spirit." For a moment he was silent, then blurted out, "Can I do that? Will they listen?" She replied, "Yes, they will, because you are special. You have something that we demon cannot achieve through hard work in our life. It's such a shame that we have to part now, even though I promised to do something naughty with you." This surprised Ishida. Seeing her determination for the naughty stuff, he turned red and said, "Don't sell yourself short for me." Though flustered, he asked, "I don't get it. Please explain to me, what's going on here?" Gasha replied, "Very well, I will make it short and easy for you." She instantly grabbed Ishida, surprising him and the demon. She moved close to Ishida. While clinging to him, she bit his ear and whispered, "You are so cute that I want to eat you right away." Finding her so close, blood streamed out from Ishida's nose. She pulled back, looked at his face while wiping his blood off, and said, "Now go to paradise quickly. Let's meet again when your soul is reincarnated. No matter how many times it will be, we will always be together." Before she could say another word, the demon enviously shouted, "You filthy human, quit sticking to the headmaster all by yourself," and launched an immediate attack, saying, "Die a million times, human." Gasha signaled Ishida and said, "Go to heaven quickly." But Ishida had made up his mind. He looked at the raging dragon rushing at full speed to attack them. Instead of dodging, he directly took the attack and stopped it from moving further, saying, "No matter how many times this body gets torn apart, it will heal back, right?" In surprise, the demon watched to see how long he could stop the dragon's rampage. During his stand, he declared, "I'm staying here." He raised his fist and shouted, "As long as Gasha is here, this is my heaven." With all his might, he struck down the dragon, making it unconscious, surprising everyone in hell with his strength. Watching his resolve for her, Gasha mischievously smiled, but the things were not over yet. In anger, the demon shouted, "Oi, dragon, wake up," and stomped on its head to wake it up. The dragon woke up in anger, grabbed the riding demon in its mouth, and threw him away into the sky. The falling demon shouted, "Screw you, dragon." Ishida noticed his falling location and said, "Isn't that the poop pot?" The demon shouted as he fell, but luck was on his side. He barely managed to escape from falling in the pond. The demon sighed and laughed as his falling location changed, unaware that his new location was more dangerous as he was about to fall into the needlemouth bug nest. At that moment, his voice echoed as he screamed in pain. Watching how other demons were reacting to his fate, Ishida instantly ran off. Watching him, Gansha asked in surprise, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to save him. I think it would upset others if only I was having a good time." She replied, "You're right. Good luck." As he left, someone else entered and said, "I thought we lost our 14th dragon, but making him stay in hell by making him fall in love with you, you really are a demon." Gansha replied, "Yes, I am." She turned towards the Sada and said, "Hey, I think he can do it, to become our school's #1 demon and the successor of Lord Enma." Though he was bleeding from the needle attacks as they were eating his flesh, Sada became surprised for a moment and expressed, "You're putting too much hope in that kid. There's no way some human can withstand the hell trials." Gansha smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have a special plan in mind for Ishida." In the end, he successfully rescued the demon and got out of the forest.